Hi guys, I'm Kasha. Welcome to our coffee times to talk about horror. And today it's a very exciting day for me because I can finally talk about Bring Her Back. I'm aware this movie has been out in some countries for a while, but it just was released here in the Netherlands and I went the first opportunity that I had. I was there in the cinema to watch it. Like, I checked, it's out, book it, let's go, because I just couldn't wait any longer. I had to avoid people's reviews, spoilers. I kept myself in the dark. I had only seen the teaser. That was enough for me. I had faith in the brothers. I really enjoyed Talk to Me, so I knew this one was going to be potentially one of my favorites for 2025. Now we're here today to discuss the movie, spoiler free, and also to see if it could potentially end up on my top 10 of the year or not.
It's coffee time!
Bring Her Back is the new movie from the Filippo brothers. Danny and Michael come back with an Australian supernatural psychological horror film. This movie was very much anticipated. The film duo is known as Raka Raka, and these twin brothers had a YouTube channel where they started putting some kind of like horror comedy videos, almost like Jordan Peele, you know, and then look how far Jordan Peele got and what amazing horror movies he has delivered over the years. And also through his Monkey Paw Company, now he's giving us even more movies. This year I'm still waiting to go watch him, which is a Monkey Paw production. And these brothers made their feature debut with the full-length film Talk to Me in 2023. It was very well received. I've watched that movie around 3 times, if not more by now. I really enjoyed it, and I was scared in a way, you know, for their next project, because you never know if they're just going to be a one-trick pony kind of thing or if they're gonna deliver again. So when they came up with Bring Her Back, I was really excited, and I cannot tell you how excited I was on the drive to the cinema that day. Because especially I think the last movie I saw before that was I Know What You Did Last Summer, which we all know how that went, right? So I went to the cinema excited with anticipation. Also today I'm wearing my earrings that are teeth. If you know, you know. I was punished and I had to wait 2 long months, I think, before it came out here, and I had to see how everybody was going to watch this movie, and I couldn't. I mean, of course, I guess I could have tried to watch it online somehow, but I didn't want to miss the cinema experience, not for this movie, not for this one. So I patiently waited to watch this movie in the cinema, so let's get into it. The plot follows a young teenager and his stepsister that end up in foster care and are adopted by an eccentric woman that lives in a very secluded home. As the siblings adapt to their new reality, they will uncover very dark secrets. If you have not seen this movie yet, fear not, I'm gonna leave a lot of stuff out, a lot of things that I consider minor spoilers. So this review is going to be completely spoiler free for anybody that wants to know if this movie is worth your time or not. Andy and his partially sighted stepsister Piper need to go into foster care, and they end up being placed with a woman called Laura that is played by Sally Hawkins, which had an amazing performance in this movie. And this woman is very eccentric, very weird, but she's also a grieving mother because she lost her daughter. Her own daughter that passed away was also blind, so of course Laura decides to, you know, take in Piper because she already knows how to handle a kid that is either blind or partially sighted, so she thinks that they will be a good fit. This movie has a very small cast, and Andy is kind of our main character because most of the movie you kind of see things from his perspective. He is almost 18, but because he is not of age yet, he needs to be placed in foster care as well, and he has said that he's not going to be separated from his sister, so he really pushed to go together with Piper to live with Laura. He's not happy, you know, to be placed in foster care with a stranger when he's almost of age, but he has no choice. And he is a type of protective older brother, you know, that really wants to stick with his sister. He's very protective of her, and that's why they both ended up at Laura's house. So foster mom Laura, she's very eccentric, very weird. She's kind of overly excited to have them there. When you meet her, you already have like an icky feeling about her, like something is off, but you don't know exactly what. Is she really like this? Is she pretending? And she's also a grieving mother. She has many things around the house that still belong to her daughter. You know, she's had a hard time moving on, which is something that you would expect. Even the room that Piper is going to be sleeping in seems to be the deceased daughter's room. Seems like she hasn't changed much at all, and that already tells you that she has not been able to really move on and let go. Grief is a very present theme in this movie, and Laura losing her daughter is one of the kind of grief examples that we see in this film. So when the kids get to Laura's house, when Andy and Piper get there, you already have like a weird feeling about the place, about Laura. You don't know exactly what it is. And I love that this kind of feeling of dread, it starts slow, and then it just builds up so organically. You almost don't even notice that it's just growing and getting more and more intense, and the dread just really peaks at the end of this film. The film gives you everything you need to know, everything you need to understand, through little clues, through the dialogue. It's not like really in your face. It's kind of more like you're slowly, you know, piecing this puzzle together, and I really enjoy that, to be honest. I love when a movie is like slowly revealing things in very clever ways. Every detail, you know, on the room, every detail on the screen, every piece of dialogue is actually giving you these crumbs that you need from the story until you get to the end. The sound design was great. There were not like extreme loud noises. It had an interesting soundtrack, as we know already from Talk to Me. And I love that they didn't utilize jump scares. I don't even remember any jump scare at all in this movie. They are not needed. You're gonna be terrified and you don't need the jump scares for that. As usual, the brothers are excellent at camera work, are giving us amazing cinematography. And obviously you're gonna see images in this movie that you're probably never ever going to forget, even though you kind of wish you could. There are also many hidden details in the images. There are moments in the movie where you see something for a brief moment of time and then they just move on to something else, but you kind of have the feeling that might have had another meaning. Like, I feel if you would watch this movie a second time, you would see a lot of those clues being spread throughout the film from the very beginning, which is amazing. It gets to show you that these brothers put so much thought into their films. There is no like shot or angle that is just for show. Everything has a purpose. Everything is meticulously curated for the viewer, and that is what makes their movies, because now we have two, so amazing to watch. The movie looks dark, rainy, gloomy, and even the colors get cold. The kids' rooms that they get when they get to Laura's house also make it very clear that they do not belong there, and everything in this movie is making you just uncomfortable. And going back to, you know, the movie of revealing things slowly, one of my favorite things about this movie is that they don't assume that the viewer is stupid. They don't over-explain anything at all. Everything is perfectly clear, like explained through dialogue, through images, and they don't over-explain anything. I hate when in a movie there is like a monologue or a piece of conversation where they're explaining everything to the viewer, like to the point where you feel stupid. So this movie doesn't do that at all. It's just allowing you to come up with your own conclusions. And what I would say is, when you get to the end of the movie, not every single thing is explained, but everything that needed an explanation is. So I'm keeping it vague, but there's a couple of things that you're questioning, oh, where did that come from? But you don't know. But it's part of the mystery. It's part of the magic of this movie. And I didn't really need an explanation. Not every movie needs an explanation for every little single thing that happens in the movie. This movie is going to be perfect for people that love psychological horror, because I would say if you would have to categorize this film, I would say it's psychological horror with mystery. more than anything else. The third act of this movie is full of tension. It's going to keep you at the edge of your seat. And this movie is a slow burn, but you don't even notice because the pacing is so good, because the movie is so entertaining, the acting is so good. You are just living it with these characters. The step siblings, Andy and Piper, amazing. And Sarah Hawkins as Laura, absolutely amazing. So the acting is so good. You only have a handful of characters, but everybody's so good that you're just so invested in this family, in these kids, in Laura and what's wrong with her, and it's just amazing. So the Filippo brothers not only are good at doing jump scares, which they did I think a couple in Talk to Me that were really effective, but in this one they have proven that they don't need to use jump scares in order to deliver a good horror movie. This one is just uncomfortable, it's disturbing, and things that happen on the screen are slow. Sometimes like a scene would be dragged and slow, and it's just that feeling of dread. I'm pretty sure many people are gonna look away at some of these scenes, but you know, that's why I loved it so much. The movie is not particularly scary, I would say, but it's just disturbing. That's how I would call it. Disturbing. That is what it is. This movie is just messed up. Basically, this movie is telling you that grief is a real horror, which is something that I know a lot of horror movies have explored, and I know some people have complained that horror movies are pulling too much into that kind of grief card, but let's remember that things that scare us most of the time is because we have some sort of trauma associated to it, and also most of the horrors that are really absolutely terrifying are things that feel real. So real life is actually real horror. So just saying that I think it's valid, and I think the way that it's being explored now in the last, let's say, 10 years is very different from the way that it was explored before, so I guess we are noticing it a lot more. And like I said, the gore scenes in this movie, I mean bloody, gory scenes, there are not too many, but I'm pretty sure a lot of people are gonna have to squint or look away because they are truly uncomfortable and hard to watch. I think that's also what I had with Talk to Me. Like, that movie felt a lot more uncomfortable sometimes than it did scary, and that's something that I really appreciate in horror, because sometimes scary movies don't particularly scare me, but when I have a movie that is very unsettling, disturbing, messed up, I remember that movie. It stays here rent-free. Like it happened to me last year with Longlegs, which is a movie that still lives here rent-free in my head. And Bring Her Back probably is my 2025 Longlegs. Bring Her Back is such a different movie from Talk to Me, which is something that I also really appreciated. I didn't want to see the same thing done again. Talk to Me was a dark movie, yes, but it also had some fun added to it. We had a party, we had a game, and it had a different vibe overall, even though it was a dark movie. Now this one, this is so much darker. There is no fun in this movie, really. A lot of people have called this movie depressing, and I would agree. It's a very dark and depressing film. Bring Her Back does have kind of like a supernatural undertone, but the real horror in this movie comes from grief and from real things in life. This movie honestly reminded me also of Japanese horror movies, movies like The Ring or Dark Water, that utilize grief and loss and a lot of symbology like circles and things like that, and the element of water, which is also present in Bring Her Back. So I can see a lot of, you know, Japanese horror influence in this movie. I ended up giving this movie a 4.5 out of 5, and I give Talk to Me a 4, so this definitely says that I enjoyed this one more, which is amazing. You know, second movie, expectations are high, and I enjoyed it even more. This is an amazing example of how to make a horror movie scary through the writing, through the visuals, and through the themes, and not just rely on cheap jump scares. The film is unpredictable, it's depressing, it's bleak, it's emotionally draining. I'm not selling it very well to you, so I guess if you're not in a good mental space right now, maybe this is not a movie for you, because it's gonna get you down. And it's one of those movies that is gonna follow you home. It's one of those movies that when I finish watching it in the cinema, we drive back home and I go to bed, I'm still thinking about it. I'm still trying to process everything that I have seen, and it's still haunting me. So this is one of those. This is one of those, so that's what I compared it to Longlegs, simply because of that, of the feeling of dread and depression that I had after this movie. I would recommend anybody to go watch this film, to be honest. I really enjoyed it. I think it's needless to say at this point of the year, it's probably gonna be on my top 10 because there's a couple of movies still coming up, you know, like Him and Weapons and other movies that I'm still expecting to see this year that might make it to the top 10. So I still have hope for the end of the year. But after a couple of movies that were kind of disappointing, I'm so happy that this movie was everything I wanted it to be and more. And I went into it without knowing much about it, was surprised, loved it, got traumatized by it, loved it. So please go and watch it if you haven't yet and if you were considering it. I am pretty sure in other countries also came out late. I don't think it's only here in the Netherlands, or maybe it's already available on VOD where you live, so you can give it a watch. But it doesn't matter if you've seen Talk to Me and liked it or not, because this is such a different movie that I don't think you can say, oh, I didn't like Talk to Me, so I'm not gonna watch this one, because they're very different. Alright you guys, I hope that you enjoyed this spoiler-free review of Bring Her Back, and let me know down below if you've seen the movie, what you thought of it, do you like it more or less than Talk to Me? Let's discuss it in the comments. Thank you guys as always so much for watching, and I hope to see you all in our next coffee time. Bye!